The slap echoed louder than the clatter of dishes, louder than the hum of the coffee machine, louder even than the girl's own gasp as her tray rattled and nearly tipped over in the middle of the diner. For a split second, time froze in the bright midday light pouring through the windows, and every pair of eyes pretended not to see what had just happened. A disabled girl stood trembling by the counter, her hands shaking, her balance unsteady, while laughter and cruelty hung in the air like smoke that no one wanted to breathe but no one bothered to clear. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a moment to pause. If you believe kindness deserves second chances, if you believe small moments can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Journal. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Her name was Maribel Quince, and she came to the diner every weekday just after noon, when the sun was high and the world felt less threatening. Maribel walked with a limp from a childhood illness that had weakened one side of her body, and her speech sometimes slowed when she was nervous, but her eyes were bright and observant. She loved the ritual of the place, the smell of grilled sandwiches, the clinking of forks, the way sunlight reflected off chrome stools. For Maribel, the diner was a small island of normalcy in a world that often reminded her she was different. That day, like many others, she had saved coins all week to buy her usual grilled cheese and tomato soup, a simple pleasure she looked forward to with quiet joy. The bullies were already there when she arrived, a cluster of loud teenagers sprawled across a booth, basking in the careless confidence of youth. They noticed her immediately. They always did. Their whispers turned into snickers, and their snickers grew bold as no one intervened. Maribel tried to focus on counting her change, her fingers fumbling slightly as she kept her eyes down. She could feel their attention pressing against her back like heat. When she turned to carry her tray to a nearby table, one of them stuck out a foot. She stumbled but caught herself, cheeks burning, heart racing. The laughter that followed was sharp and unapologetic. Then came the slap, sudden and humiliating, delivered not with rage but with casual cruelty, as if her dignity meant nothing at all. Maribel froze, her face flushing red, her eyes filling as she struggled to process what had just happened. The diner fell into an uneasy silence. Plates stopped clinking. A server paused mid-step. People looked away, stared into their coffee, checked their phones. It was daytime, bright and open, yet the room felt darker than any night. Maribel did not cry out. She didn't know how to. Instead, she stood there, shaking, trying to steady her breathing as her soup sloshed dangerously close to the edge of the bowl. She wanted to disappear, to fold herself into the floor tiles and vanish. Slowly, painfully, she made her way to a corner table. Each step felt heavier than the last. She sat down, untouched food before her, and stared at the steam rising from the soup as if it might carry her pain away. No one came to check on her. The bullies laughed again, satisfied, and returned to their conversation as though nothing significant had occurred. Outside, cars passed by under the midday sun, unaware that something small but devastating had just happened inside those walls. Maribel's hands trembled so badly she had to press them together under the table. She thought of her father, who had promised to meet her there later after finishing his shift. She didn't want to worry him. She didn't want to be a burden. So she sat in silence, counting breaths, counting minutes, waiting. An hour can feel like a lifetime when shame and fear sit beside you. Maribel watched people come and go. A family with young children laughed near the window. A construction worker wiped sweat from his brow as he drank iced tea. Life moved forward, indifferent. With each passing minute, her initial shock hardened into a dull ache. She wondered if this was all her life would ever be, moments of hope punctured by cruelty, endured quietly because making noise never seemed to help. What Maribel didn't know was that across town, her father, Rowan Calder, was finishing his shift early. Rowan was a single dad who worked long hours as a city bus mechanic, his days filled with grease-stained hands and aching joints. He raised Maribel alone after her mother passed away years earlier, learning patience and tenderness the hard way. Rowan worried constantly about the world's treatment of his daughter, but he also believed fiercely in her independence. He wanted her to live, not hide. That belief often kept him awake at night. As Rowan drove toward the diner under the clear afternoon sky, he rehearsed the smile he would wear when he saw her, the casual way he'd ask about her day. He had no idea that the air inside that small building was still heavy with something unspoken. When he pushed open the door, the bell chimed softly, and the normal sounds rushed back in around him. His eyes scanned the room instinctively, landing on Maribel curled slightly inward at her table. He saw it immediately, the way her shoulders were tense, the way she avoided eye contact. A father learns these things. Rowan approached slowly, his concern deepening with every step. He noticed the untouched food, the faint redness on her cheek, the tightness around her eyes that spoke of tears held back too long. He sat across from her, his presence steady and grounding, and waited. He didn't rush her. He had learned that patience was the greatest gift he could give. Maribel tried to smile for him, but it crumbled. The story spilled out in fragments, her words halting but determined. Rowan listened, his jaw tightening not with rage alone, but with a deep, aching sadness that this world had once again failed his child. He followed her gaze to the booth where the bullies still sat, loud and careless. The room seemed to shrink as Rowan stood. What happened next was not explosive or violent. Rowan didn't shout or throw punches. Instead, he walked to the counter and spoke calmly to the staff, his voice firm enough to cut through the noise. He described what had happened, every detail, refusing to let it be minimized. The manager's face paled. Other patrons began to pay attention. Whispers rippled outward. Accountability, long delayed, finally entered the room. The bullies shifted uncomfortably as eyes turned toward them. Their laughter died. The manager asked them to leave, citing zero tolerance for harassment. As they protested weakly, something remarkable happened. A woman from a nearby table stood and voiced her support. Then another patron nodded. A server spoke up. The silence that had protected cruelty earlier was gone, replaced by collective resolve. The bullies left under the weight of stares, their bravado stripped away. Rowan returned to Maribel's table, placing a gentle hand over hers. The diner felt different now, lighter, as if fresh air had finally been let in. The manager apologized personally, comped their meal, and promised changes. It didn't erase what had happened, but it mattered. It said, "You are seen. You matter." Maribel took a sip of her soup. It tasted warmer than before. Around her, the world resumed, but something inside her had shifted. She realized that strength didn't always mean standing alone. Sometimes it meant letting others stand with you. Rowan smiled at her, pride shining in his tired eyes, not because she had endured pain, but because she had survived it with her heart intact. As they left the diner together in the golden afternoon light, Maribel felt taller, steadier. The memory would stay with her, but so would this moment, the moment when kindness finally spoke louder than cruelty. The world hadn't changed completely, but her place in it felt more secure. She squeezed her father's hand, a silent thank you passing between them. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us we're not alone. And before you go, we have one special request. Please comment below and tell us what kindness means to you, or share a moment when standing up made a difference. Somewhere, another Maribel is walking into a diner, hoping today will be gentle. Stories like this, and people like you, help make that hope real.